all this wood is really starting to stack up, so it's time I start putting it to use. Since it's nearly Christmas, I guess I'll make some Christmas presents, and what I'll be giving to family members this year will be these bellows. So I've made this prototype, and while there's some improvements I want to make on the finals, I will start off with this, see how it goes. I'll start off by planing down this hickory to 9/16 of an inch. A 1/2 inch felt too thin, 5/8 inch felt too thick, so I compromised and put it in the middle. Now that I've got the right size stock, I'm going to use this template to lay out the shapes that I need to cut out in the bandsaw. Now that I've rough milled up 3 sets of blanks, I'm going to pre-drill the handle hanging hole very carefully so that I can screw the blanks together and gang sand them on my sander to make sure they're equally shaped. I'll use a pilot bit first and then drill out the final hole with a 3/8 inch Forstner bit. Now that I have the blanks all cut and the hole drilled, I can use this carriage bolt to anchor all these 4 together so they can be gang sanded. Give me a much more uniform result. Now off to the belt sander. Well, there we go. That came out pretty nice. Do a little finish sanding on that before I move along. If we go back and take a look at the prototype, you can see the nozzle comes off and there's a bit of wood sticking out that's been carved to fit onto the plumbing fixtures used for the nozzle. You'll also notice that this is considerably thicker than we have here. We'll need a spacer here at the front on either side with a 1/2 inch gap in between to act as the air nozzle. Once all that's glued together and sanded smooth, we'll cut the nozzle into the top to be received into the copper pipe fittings. I didn't trim the blanks to size because that can be done afterwards more accurately. I'll put this spacer in the middle and then glue the 2 blanks on either side and pull the spacer out. There we go. I'll do the other ones, leave them to set up. So now we've got the front spacers glued up. There's another spacer in the back which acts as a nailer for the upholstery and to keep the user from overstressing the hinge by providing a stop. Now that piece is going to be glued across the grain here, so I need to keep the grain of the wood going in this direction, not in this direction. I've got one marked on. I'll make each of them a 1/2 inch thick. Let's call it 3.5 inches. So let's go mill those out in the bandsaw. Attaching the backstop is pretty straightforward. Just a little bit of glue. Remember, the grain for this needs to go the same way as the grain for this because it's going to expand and contract in this direction. If I put another piece of wood on here going this direction and this one going this direction, something's got to give when this one contracts and this one doesn't. I'll just leave those to set up. There's not much else I can do with this right now, so it's better to let the glue do its work. Bottom parts are all glued up. The nozzle end still needs to be trimmed, but the next step is going to be putting this on top. Now in order to do that, you'll notice this is hinged here, right across here. So I'll need to cut these off, mill a mortise for the hinge, and then glue everything up and trim it again. The next step is I need vent holes for the top to let the air in. I drill a pilot hole first so that when I flip it over, I'll have a location for the forcing of it on the other side. So this 3/4 to 1/2 inch copper reduction is going to be the formation for my nozzle here. So I've kind of rough cut this, and I'll have to mill the rest of it by hand with a file and a chisel. There we go. Next I need to put on these hinges. Now traditionally you would use a leather strap for a hinge, but since I'm using a genuine farm-raised naga hide, which isn't strong enough, I'll be using these little brass plated hinges instead. And mark out the mortise. And I'll cut out the mortise with a 3/4 inch chisel. I decided to go with a boiled linseed oil finish because for things that need to be touched, like bellows, it just feels nice. After more than a few false starts, I think I finally got a bellows leather pattern that works. So this is the pattern, or a half pattern. I'll trace it onto this synthetic leather. I'll glue a hem around the outside, and then I should be ready to install it. Now notice when I cut out the pattern, I'm going to leave about a 1/4 inch around the edge to make a proper hem. The hem will be glued in place with contact cement. Contact cement, rubber cement, and spray adhesive. It is not a typical adhesive where you stick it together wet. It has to dry to a glossy coat, and then it will stick to itself. If you try to adhere it before it's dried, it'll make a weak bond and may not stick at all. To eliminate bagginess at the back of the bellows, I need to add in one more cut. Once that cut's in place, I'm going to put some glue on the front side, glue it together, and then stitch it up. All right, it's almost ready to install, but before I move forward, I need to make a little flap to act as a valve on the intakes. To do that, I'll put in a couple of tacks to hold the flap loosely in place, and that should do it. To install the leather, I'll be using these little copper tacks, which I think have a real nice look, and well, they're not too hard to get. I picked them up at Home Depot or Lowe's or something. So I start off in this front piece here, in this front corner. And same on the other side. This bellows is all done. I've got my dinner in there somewhere, so let's see if we can stoke up the fire a little bit. That was a fun little project. It took a lot of tinkering to get the details right, and but it seems to be working nicely. I'm happy with the way it looks, and I hope the people I send them to for Christmas this year appreciate them. Anyway, if you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.